So, I got something super cool for you today on Case Closed, Adrian. Well, it's insane. You know how Jack the Ripper is? Like the biggest unsolved mystery ever? Well, we might, finally have an answer.
Wait, hold up. Are you telling me after, 137 years, we might actually know who he was? That's totally wild.
Maybe. And it's perfect for, Case Closed. Because, well, we might actually be able to close this thing. Once and for all,
All right. Before we dive into the new evidence, why do you think Jack the Ripper still, fascinates people after all this time?
Ooh, I love this question. So first off, he's one of the first truly modern serial killers, at least, in the way we think about serial killers today. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Before him, you had murders, but not this pattern of, calculated ritualistic killing.
Exactly. And here's the other thing. He was never caught. That mystery factor, it just fuels the obsession. Every few years, some new theory pops up, right? It was a surgeon. It was a royal. It was an artist. And people they just can't let it go.
And let's be real. His name is Killer Branding, Jack the Ripper. It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie.
Totally. And speaking of branding, right? Those letters, the ones he supposedly wrote to the police, the ones signed from hell.
Oh, yeah. Those were like the first true crime media sensation.
Exactly. The newspapers, right? They went wild. And the legend, it just grew. Some people even think the letters were fake, maybe even written by the press to sell papers.
That's nuts. Okay, so for anyone who, somehow doesn't know, Jack the Ripper was terrorizing London in 1888, right?
Yep, in Whitechapel, which was, a poor, overcrowded district at the time. And the Canonical Five, that's what we call, his confirmed victims. They were all women.
Okay, so who were they?
We're talking Mary Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly.
And I remember there's a lot of debate about whether he had more victims, right?
Oh, totally. Some experts, they believe there were, up to 6 more. But there's no, definitive proof.
That is horrifying. What exactly did he do to them?
Honestly, it was beyond brutal. All the murders happened between August and November of 1888. And get this, 3 of the victims, they had their internal organs removed. That's why people started thinking, that the killer might have had medical knowledge.
Okay, so how did they finally figure out who he was?
All right, this is where it gets really interesting. Enter Russell Edwards. He's this self-proclaimed ripperologist.
I still love that there's a whole term for people obsessed with this case.
Same. So in 2007, Edwards, he bought a shawl that supposedly belonged to Catherine Eddowes, one of the victims. And here's the shocking part. The shawl, it still had blood and semen stains on it.
Wait, actual DNA evidence?
Yes. It took 4 years of testing, but they found 2 matches. One to a descendant of Catherine Eddowes and the other to Aaron Kosminski.
Whoa. Who's Aaron Kosminski?
So Kosminski was a Polish immigrant living in London at the time. He was a barber in Whitechapel. And get this, he was already a suspect back in the day.
Wait, why didn't they arrest him then?
That's the crazy part. He had a history of severe mental illness. But back then, police didn't have the, forensic tools to prove anything. He heard voices, refused to bathe, and was even afraid of being fed by other people.
That is unsettling.
Right? And now, over a century later, DNA testing, it might have finally confirmed what police suspected all along.
Okay, so what's happening now? Are they, reopening the case?
Well, the victims' families, they are pushing for an official investigation, especially Catherine Eddowes' great-great-great-granddaughter.
I mean, that makes total sense. But what's stopping them?
Well, not everyone, is convinced. Some experts, they question whether the DNA evidence is reliable because the research, it hasn't been published in a peer-reviewed journal.
Oh, so basically some experts aren't convinced?
Exactly. And 2 years ago, the Attorney General, he refused to reopen the case, saying there wasn't enough new evidence.
Man, even after all this time, we still don't have a clear answer.
I know, but honestly, it kind of feels like we can finally call this
Case closed.
That's it for today's episode. If you love this, make sure to subscribe. Leave a comment telling us who you think Jack the Ripper was.